Turning now to the battle over abortion rights in the U.S., a partial hand recount in Kansas has confirmed the results of a vote on the issue earlier this month. Voters struck down an effort to remove abortion rights from the state constitution. Meanwhile, a Michigan judge has granted a preliminary injunction preventing prosecutors from enforcing a 1930s abortion ban. That law is back under consideration after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June. So here to discuss this is Michigan's Attorney General Dana Nessel. Thank you very much for joining us. So first off, just give us a sense of what the status of abortion access is right now in your state.
Well, as of right now, it's the same as it had been prior to the United States Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade via the Dobbs decision. But it's temporary. So what the judge did is grant a restraining order or a preliminary injunction that basically indicates that until this matter is fully decided by the court at a hearing that won't take place until November after the election, everything will stay in place in terms of the status quo, meaning that doctors will be able to treat their patients just as they always have. And the judge did that very intentionally in terms of the timing, because we're expected to have a ballot proposal that'll appear on the November ballot that, if successful, will mean that women have reproductive rights in our state and will codify Roe into the Michigan Constitution. But again, that's just for the next, 77 days or so. And then after that, things could change dramatically.
Yeah, Madam Attorney General, you released a statement in the wake of this decision, and you wrote, "Uncertainty around the law has a chilling effect on the conduct of doctors and therefore limits access to care for Michigan women. Maintaining access to reproductive health care is absolutely necessary for the health and well-being of women." What do you say to abortion providers who are concerned, though, that they could still face legal repercussions if they perform the procedure while this injunction is in place?
Well, I would say that the law is very clear in terms of the judge's order, and that is, at least in the counties that are being sued by the governor, absolutely the injunction is clear. Those doctors can go ahead and they can perform all of the necessary procedures that they were performing prior to Roe v. Wade being overturned without legal repercussion. But I would say to our state, what we have to do is we have to turn out in massive numbers in November, just as the voters did in Kansas in their last election. And we have to make sure that these protections are codified into our state constitution. And we have to protect our own state using our own voters, because obviously the United States Supreme Court is unwilling to grant those same protections that were, part of our society for nearly 50 years.
I think people have been hearing about Michigan's 1931 abortion ban, but I don't think they have an idea of just how restrictive it actually was. And it doesn't just target doctors, it also targets pregnant people as well. Can you talk about this ban and whether or not there are any exceptions to it?
Well, very few. So there are no exceptions for rape, no exceptions for incest, and no exception for the health of the mother. And so the way the law reads, it's that anybody who administers even abortion medication to an individual, and that could be the pregnant person themselves, right? That could be the pregnant woman who is giving herself the medication for which she's been prescribed. But what the doctor said during what is, I believe, the first evidentiary hearing that's been held by any state since the overturning of Roe v. Wade is that those medical experts, those doctors, testified that they don't know the meaning of the phrase "to save the life of the mother." What does that mean? In cases of preeclampsia, or where the patient has cancer or high blood pressure, or there's an ectopic pregnancy, just how close to death does this individual have to be before the doctor is provided to move in and save that person's life? And what are the percentage chances that they have to die? What if there's only a 40 or 50 or 60% chance that that woman will die? Is that enough? I don't know about you, but if I was a patient, if I was pregnant and the doctor said there's only a 70% chance that you're going to die, so I can't help you, I would be pretty upset about that. And I will say that the individuals that are running for these critical offices in the state, the man who's running for Attorney General against me, he's made it very clear he doesn't believe there are any circumstances that exist that would cause a woman to die or to have her health be in jeopardy based on a pregnancy or based on something that happens during the course of labor. So this is an individual who obviously has never spoken to an OBGYN before in his life, but it's very, very scary because here's a guy who has just come out and said that nothing is more important than a fertilized egg. Can you imagine being whether you're an 11-year-old rape victim, whether you're a woman who badly wanted to have children, but something goes terribly wrong during the course of the pregnancy, and you know that here maybe you have 2 or 3 kids sitting at home, but basically your government has told you that you have to die for the crime of becoming pregnant. It's outrageous, and I think that the women in our state are not going to take it, and I think we're going to do exactly what Kansas women did. We're going to go to the ballot box in record numbers, and we are going to vote to pass this ballot proposal that at long last will ensure these protections for all people in the state of Michigan.
So you mentioned your opponent. You are up for re-election this year. And what are the concerns going into this election? What are you hearing from the voters?
Well, the voters are terrified. They're very concerned. And I think for a lot of people, they just never imagined that this day would actually arrive where, the thought of becoming pregnant would be so terrifying, because to know and to understand that in the event that something goes wrong during your pregnancy, that no doctor will be legally permitted to save you is incredibly scary. A large percentage of pregnancies go awry at some point. It's very, very common for that to occur. And people don't want to be in that position. And for the fact that honestly, the healthcare system would fall into crisis because you have all these doctors who, take a Hippocratic oath, right? And that is to do no harm and also to save the person's life if they're in jeopardy, or even if they are facing substantial health consequences. It's their job. And there's actually federal law that indicates that a doctor has to assist a patient in the event they're having health complications. And then here you have this very old law that indicates, no, you can't assist that patient, even if they're suffering greatly, because the law prevents you from doing it. The doctors say, we don't know what to do because we have to violate our Hippocratic oath and just sit there and watch as a woman suffers needlessly, unnecessarily, where we could perform a very easy procedure that would, save the health of that woman, potentially ensure that she remains fertile, that she doesn't suffer from sepsis and suffer from a really substantial infection or even die, and that they have to just sit there and watch it happen. There's no excuse for that. And I don't think that the people in our state are going to stand for it.
Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.